Ethan Skolnick for the Five on the Floor podcast. A lot of you complained about audio issues, so we decided to make this as easy as possible to hear. So I'm here with Alphonse Sidney, and we decided to do our podcast tonight from the site of our watch party where the Heat just beat the Sixers. We found a quiet place in this establishment. Did we not, Alf?
Oh, this is super quiet. It's the quietest spot in the whole place right now.
Well, it was offered to us that Alf and I could go back to a VIP room together. We thought the optics on that would not be great. So anyway, we had a great time tonight at Gold Club Pompano. It's still going on. We're going to go home and record podcasts from our separate residences, or else nobody's going to subscribe to this podcast ever again.
Yeah, I'm about to go home. I'll spend like maybe 10 more minutes here. There are certain things I have to wrap up before I leave. But yeah, we're about to go home. We're going to do a podcast from home. We're going to recap this awesome game.
Yes, it was a great game. And by the way, 2-1 this year at watch parties with wins over the Bucks and the Sixers. So bleep your curse. Yes.
I want to do a big apology to Kendrick Nunn because I've been very hard on him.
All right, let's save that for home. It's 10:22. Alf just said he's going home in 10 minutes. For the record, this podcast will be recorded at 4:30 in the morning. Talk soon.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast with Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, a.k.a. Alf 954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick, we're back on the Five on the Floor podcast. I'm no longer shouting because all I've got where I am right now is the air conditioner. I'm back in Fort Lauderdale. Alf is in the Miramar area. And
yes.
we're gonna try to do a real podcast tonight. We're gonna attempt to do this, Alf. No crude jokes. We've already had to delete the first recording. We're not gonna talk about how much you had to drink or anything else that we witnessed tonight.
That was a good joke. Honestly, we have to do a patron episode of the good joke I did earlier.
Yeah, we don't do Patreon anymore. Nobody wanted to pay us, unfortunately. And the other thing that happened tonight before we get to tonight's Heat Sixer game is, Alf dropped, all of the money he's made from Five on the Floor on a table. It was $17 bills. And our guys, nothing bad was done with these dollar bills. They were tossed in the air as confetti when the Heat won this game. So let's get to the game, Alf, before you pass out.
I don't like the fact that you blaming me for the dollar bills on the table. I'm not going to let it ride just like, oh, Alf is the degenerate of the two. All the dollar bills that you saw pictured on the table, on Twitter and on Instagram are not all for me, okay? Ethan had something to do with those.
That's true. We had a few. It's Five on the Floor proceeds. Thank you to our sponsors. All right, let's get to the game because this thing started off in a way that we thought we were going to do the same old watch party podcast, right? Like this was number 14 actually, and the Heat came in at 1-12. We don't not the Heat, but the South Florida teams, because the Dolphins lost everyone we did, the Hurricanes lost everyone they did, and part of the reason is we do them for road games, right? And road games you're more likely to lose. We do them for road games because we don't want to sort of lose people who may be going to the game, right? So it's less likely someone's going to the game in Philadelphia and then going to the game in Miami. We also typically pick games that are competitive. We expect to be very competitive for the Heat first because they're more interesting. We might draw more people. We had a really nice crowd tonight. Or, the other reason is that, we think they probably will lose anyway, so we won't get blamed for it.
Right?
Right. If they go into it
if you're going to lose anyway, might as well have to put the 5 Reasons curse on top of it.
Correct.
Like,
have a good time.
Let's not lose to the Knicks.
Right. We would get blamed for that. If they lose to the Knicks, we would get blamed. Like if we had done the watch party for the Memphis game the other night, we would have gotten blamed for that. It'd have
been all our fault.
Right. But so this was not going to be our fault because everybody expected them to lose to Philadelphia anyway. They were 8-point dogs. I had people who were texting me before the game saying, should I play it? I said I wouldn't touch that line. The Heat are shorthanded right now. I don't trust them against this team. And the reality is, as you and I were watching this game at the beginning, there were some trends we were concerned about that held up. It looked like for the first 3 minutes of the game, you mentioned it, that Josh Richardson had basically just swallowed Kendrick Nunn up. that he couldn't go anywhere. The Heat were taking ridiculous off-balance shots. Jimmy's legs look shot, which, by the way, it kind of looks shot for most of the game. But, he needs a rest. But, at the beginning of the game, it was trending the way we expected. The Sixers were just chucking the ball up and retrieving it off the rim because they're bigger, they're longer, and that's going to be a problem for the Heat going forward. But some things then started to change. The zone, I think, is something we got to talk about tonight because both you and I haven't really liked it in past games. It clearly worked tonight against a team that struggles to space. And so I think that's something you're going to have to look at. I think other teams like Boston, Indiana, Toronto may start to run a little zone against the Sixers too because they don't really have a lot of shooters. And the other thing that happened tonight to me is Tyler Hero. We could talk about Duncan Robinson. We could talk about obviously what Kendrick Nunn did. But the fact that Tyler Hero at 19 is showing up in these big games is a great, great sign going forward. Derrick Jones Jr. was terrific tonight again. And they did this without Dragic, without Winslow, and with Butler being at far less than his best again.
Yeah, Butler was a -6 tonight. Kendrick Nunn was a +19. And one of the things I want to talk about is Kendrick Nunn tonight, because we talked about it, me and you talked about it in the first quarter. We saw that Josh Richardson just completely swallowed him up. That length bothered him. And then he got a chance at the end of the first and going into the second against the Sixers second unit. And what he did, he took complete advantage of that, got into a rhythm. And even when Josh Richardson came back, he was in his rhythm already. And once Kendrick Nunn gets into a rhythm, he's a really, really good player. So I have been very, very hard on Kendrick Nunn, and I'm going to admit that. But tonight, he was amazing. He was really, really good. And he made a lot of the right plays where I watched the game with Nekias Duncan in the upper press box against the Lakers. And we pointed out maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 times where he missed a pocket pass to Bam on the roll, or he could have found Duncan Robinson in the corner. But against the Sixers, those passes that are normally good passes are not good passes because they're so long, they're so athletic, and a lot of times those kind of passes result in turnovers. What Kendrick Nunn did tonight, and it's well within his wheelhouse, is to say, I'm not going to make that pass. I'm going to challenge the defense, take it to the hole, or shoot the three. And he made a lot of really good decisions tonight that against some other teams might not be the greatest decisions, but against the Sixers tonight, against the second unit, and after he got into rhythm, even against Josh Richardson and Ben Simmons, long guys who are way bigger than he is, he made the right decisions late in the game and throughout the game. He had a really, really good, solid game where where the type of player that he is can get you in trouble against some other teams. He did the right thing tonight.
I've made the John Starks comparison with Kendrick Nunn, and I think people have misunderstood it a little bit. But there's a lot of things that are similar here in terms of where they came from and where the expectations got to very quickly. I lived in New York when John Starks was found by Pat Riley. If you don't know the story, he was bagging. It's sort of like a Kurt Warner story. He was bagging groceries. Not a guy who was expected to be an NBA player, kind of similar to Kendrick Nunn. I mean, not the same reason that Kendrick Nunn wasn't drafted, but Starks wasn't drafted either. Starks, the other parallel was let go by Golden State. Riley poached him from Golden State. And, look, I think in some ways people think of Starks as a more athletic player, better defender. Everybody remembers the dunk, obviously over the Bulls, over Jordan, the lefty dunk. But we've seen some of that elevation from Kendrick Nunn also. But the parallel to me is that you have a guy who came out of nowhere. There were no expectations for him. And then once, like, a Pat Riley team, in this case with Spoelstra's blessing, put him in the starting lineup, everybody from there started to pick him apart. Like, I remember with Starks in New York, it's like they loved his feistiness, but it was like, okay, he's not good enough, right? He's not Jordan. He's at the time, right? He's not Reggie Miller. Even though in some ways he was better than Reggie Miller. He did some things better than Reggie did. But they were always picking him apart. He went from this incredible success story to this. Okay, he's not good enough. Okay, and finding his shortcomings, and I feel like we've done that with Kendrick Nunn. I don't know why specifically. I don't know. For some, maybe it was the off court thing. I'm not sure, but I feel like
honestly,
no?
what it is, Ethan, is if you watch him play, there's a lot of, and I'm gonna go away from John Starks. There's a lot of Dion Waiters to him, and it's some of it is even more. He's a more efficient Dion Waiters, but he's also a bigger black hole at times than Dion Waiters is. So there's a lot of times with Kendrick Nunn where there's a pass to be made that's very evident to even the most basic of fans, where you can look at it and say, man, no, Kendrick, make that pass. And Kendrick looks to score. Kendrick is a scorer, much in the same way that Dion Waiters is. But like I'm saying, Dion, and what I'll probably say is probably Dion in his first few years probably made some of the same mistakes that Kendrick's making. So the thing is with Kendrick is we see there's times where there's passes that he can make, there's things that he could do that he doesn't do. It's not nitpicking. We appreciate what he's doing offensively, but we also see that there's times that even when he makes a shot, that he's taking away from the rhythm of the offense. Now, Kendrick Nunn is his first year in the NBA. So there's lessons to be learned. So maybe and I've already seen it. There's pocket passes that he's making to Bam Adebayo in the last 2-3 games that he wasn't making at the beginning of the year. So he's already learning. So I think Kendrick will get to that point, but it doesn't absolve him from the critiques that we're giving. The same critiques that we're giving to Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero makes a lot of mistakes. But we see a lot of the raw talent with both of these guys.
Yeah, but it's a little different with Tyler, though, because we always say he's 19, right? I mean, I think.
Yeah, but Kendrick's older than Winslow.
No, I know, right? Well, and Justice gets no benefit of the doubt. But what I'm saying about Nunn and Hero is, even since the start of training camp or even go back to summer league, the idea is there's an expectation because of the age difference that Nunn's going to be further ahead in some things. But the reality is he doesn't have any more NBA experience than Tyler Hero does. So
he doesn't.
Like you said, there's going to be certain things he's going to pick up. I feel like there's been a turn with the fan base on him. Maybe it is some of the things you're talking about, but like the first 2 weeks of the season, it was this incredible story. And then Hero, had his moments, went off. Obviously, he had that 27-point game. I mean, but Nunn's top 27 a couple times at this stage. I just think we've gotten to a point with Kendrick Nunn where, to be honest with you, I think taking him for granted, picking him apart, I think it's swung too far the other direction. Like, he was not as perfect a player as he looked like the first couple weeks. And I even said, and I was wrong, that there didn't seem to be any holes in his game that people would pick apart. And obviously what got picked apart by opposing coaches and opposing teams was sort of this, indecision about when to pass, or maybe a tunnel vision where he's not even looking to pass. And that was gumming up the Heat offense at times. But I think he can make an adjustment. I mean, when I'm watching Derrick Jones Jr. make the proper basketball play, he wasn't doing that last year.
Kendrick has already started to make the adjustment. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you can't fault fans for wanting him to make it. So he's made the adjustment. But he's made the adjustment that fans wanted him to make. And he hasn't completely made that adjustment, but he's starting to. Like, he's starting to look for that pass a little bit more. And tonight, what I did like about tonight is tonight was a night not to make that adjustment.
Right.
And he was doing it more in the Laker game, and the Maverick game, and the Hawks game. And then tonight, he started to realize, okay, that pocket pass to Bam on the pick and roll, because of Embiid, that size and that length, because he's a monster, is probably not the best pass to make, because Embiid kept leaving Kendrick just to deny the lob and deny that pass to Bam. And Kendrick made the smart decision just to take it to the hole. So the thing is, if Kendrick continues this progression, the fans will lay off him. But there have been a lot of times where it was warranted. The critiques were warranted. Now, there's a lot of Heat fans on Twitter, and I think the problem is we live too much on Twitter. But there's a lot of Heat fans that went too far in the other direction and just started calling Kendrick Nunn trash. Which, listen, second highest rookie scorer in the league. He's not trash.
No, but I don't even think you were getting that. I think you were getting. Look, again,
No,
we have
you
to
were
ignore, but I think you have to ignore. We've talked about it with Justice too.
The fringe. You got to ignore.
You have to ignore the fringe. I think there were legitimate critiques of Kendrick Nunn's play that were reasonable because there are things he does that I think here's where you got to separate it from him and Dion. I understand what you're talking about with Dion, that there's a similarity in terms of what can be some tunnel vision, but I don't think with Kendrick Nunn it's intentional. I feel like with Dion, and I don't want to beat on Dion when he's down here, but like I feel like with Dion that, it's part of his whole makeup, right? It's part of what he boasts about. Like, I mean, he's Kobe Wade, right? Like, I mean, he believes he's the best player in the world. Okay,
and he's neither.
Right, but it's like, I mean, Chalmers believed he was the best player in the world too, but it was kind of comical. With Dion, I think it feels a little more serious with him, and that's been part of his difficulty conforming the way they wanted him to conform. But I don't think with Kendrick Nunn that the tunnel vision is a result of selfishness in any way or of, sort of believing he's better than everybody. I mean, he's confident, but or believing he's better than anybody else. I think it's more so it's just the way he's been coached to play in some ways. Because if you look at the situation, again, he left Illinois under obviously not the greatest circumstances, but he went to Detroit. Okay, they needed, I mean, look at the number of shots he took, right? Their success was completely dependent on him. So, I mean, why would he be expected to understand how to make the proper pass in the proper situation? Like, I mean, it's not what he was there to do. I mean, he was there to be a high volume shooter. He had more threes than anybody in college basketball other than Trae Young.
But he's learning.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. They're going to take a player like that, and they're going to try to figure out the things he does well, figure out the things he hasn't really been coached to do. It's going to take a little bit of time, but he's learning on the fly. I mean, Duncan Robinson is doing a lot of things he didn't used to do also, and we're going to talk about Duncan after the break.
Can we talk about Duncan?
We're going to after the break. All right, so I want to tell you about one of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. Check them out at onecalllegal.com. That's onecalllegal.com. Spell it out, O-N-E, calllegal.com. They've got someone there 24 hours a day to handle your case from all over the state. They handle immigration, also, of course, traffic tickets, personal injury, and so much more. Go check them out. Their office is right there in North Miami, right off of I-95. It cannot possibly be more convenient. In fact, you got a legal issue that's bothering you? Give them a call, and while you're waiting 45 minutes to get from, 79th Street up to 125th Street, get off of I-95 and go visit them over at Seltzer Mayberg, and maybe we'll actually be there too because we share an office with them. So that's the Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. Again, onecalllegal.com. All right. We can get to Duncan Robinson now, and then ultimately we're going to get to Bam Adebayo. But I want to make one point before we do. I tweeted this tonight. Kelly Olynyk got almost no minutes tonight, under 10. Eric Spoelstra played only 7 guys more than 8 minutes. This team is exhausted. You've talked about it, and that's why it was amazing, that run that they put together, that 27-7 run to surge ahead. But also kind of remarkable that they just held Philly off at the end because you could see it falling apart. I mean, we're at this watch party, and I mean, I was fell apart in part because I started tweeting too early again about how they were going to win. But
eight-man rotation. 8-man rotation. It's really in December.
Now. It's really 7. I mean, this is not. Again, there's James Johnson. I mean, do we even need to talk about that anymore? I don't know. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a body that's coming back anytime soon. I mean, I've said repeatedly, I don't think Dragic comes back till next year. I don't mean next season, but just 2020. And with Justice, there's just no updates. And it seems like something they don't want to update. So,
apparently, Dragic might come back on Friday.
Well, we'll see. I mean, he had indicated it looked like it was going to be another week or so, but we'll see if he comes back on Friday. That would be a huge help. I mean, if they could get Goran back. But they're really, really thin. So, I mean, we don't want to dwell on it. We've talked about it a lot. Eric's not doing it, by choice. I just wonder how this is going to make them feel in a month or two. It's been a lot on certain guys in particular. I mean, Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson are playing close to 40 minutes. I mean, these are guys who were playing in the G League not long ago. Now they're doing this at the NBA level on the road.
What I did like tonight, Jimmy only played 34 minutes. I didn't like the fact that he was handling the ball so much so early. there's a lot of that fourth quarter Jimmy minutes, that butter zone, that karate like to call it. Jimmy was handling the ball a lot early. What I did see tonight, that what I really did like is Spoelstra saw early that Myers Leonard's size made a lot of difference, and we talked about this a lot all night while we were at the watch party. Myers gets about 14, 15 minutes a game. He plays the first 7, 8 minutes of the first quarter and the first 7 or 8 minutes of the third quarter. You never see him in the second. You barely ever see him in the fourth. Tonight, they brought him off the bench, and I don't care about the number of points he had. I don't care about the stats. He made a difference. The big body in the paint, just deterring things, and he had a huge block. He did a lot of things tonight that don't show up in the box score. He did a lot of things tonight that were very positive, and I hope going forward, because you know how much I like Myers,
right,
and how much I appreciate what Myers' contribution to this team is. I hope he gets more of those opportunities, because there are times where they do need that presence. We've seen them get out rebounded over and over again. There was times tonight where Myers didn't get the rebound, but his presence in the paint and DJJ flying in caused either an offensive or defensive rebound where neither one of them got the stat.
Right.
But their presence there made a difference. So I do like the fact that Spoelstra saw what was going on, saw that he needed size and length, because you got to remember, Kelly Olynyk is 7 feet tall, legitimately. He does not have length for a 7-footer. So to bring Myers Leonard in and to make that difference tonight, I thought that was huge. I thought it was a little bit of a game changer tonight.
Yeah, it was, in addition to the zone, and we both identified it when it happened. I think, the thing with Myers Leonard is that, like you mentioned with Kelly, if Kelly's not making shots at this point, since they don't run that much offense through him, I mean, if he's not consistently making, and I don't just mean making the three, I mean also putting the ball on the deck and getting to the basket, which is something he can do that Myers really can't. If he's not doing those things, then it's just, from a rebounding perspective, he's just not giving you anything. And there's just been too many games this year. And I like Kelly, but like, he's either been really good, like the Milwaukee game on the road, or he's just giving them nothing. And so I'm okay with bringing Myers back. I mean, Chris Silva, they've kind of shuttled him aside a little bit at this point. I mean, it's not a days thing. We had people at the watch party. It's not about that. It's just, I just don't think they see a matchup for him at times. So they're going to have to go back to Myers, at times. And Myers is in an interesting role. He's in the last year of his contract. I think with Myers, you and I both like him personally so much, and sometimes I let that color my opinion on stuff. If I was to make one sort of criticism of Myers, is just shoot it more. You and I both talked about it. Like, he's a good shooter, and I feel like when he doesn't hesitate, their whole offense changes because teams have to play him out there. He should be taking, I think, and I said this when they traded for him, I mean, he really should be taking, 4 to 5 3-point shots a game.
And tonight he took 5 and made 2. And that's all you want.
That's all.
That's all you want.
If he goes 2 for 5, it opens up things for everybody else, and he has to shoot it. And so, there's certain things he has from a limitation standpoint defensively, but if he's in the right position, he's communicating, which is something he obviously does. He's making the 3, and like you said, he's just kind of taking up space. And to be honest, right now he's giving you more than Kelly is, because Kelly's just not giving.
And
you
one of the things when me and Nakai talked to him the other night, he said, "I want to play more minutes at the 5." Mm-hmm. And tonight, when he came off the bench, it was without Bam. A lot of the times it was without Bam on the floor. He played a lot of minutes at the 5, and he was very effective in those minutes. Where just sometimes being big is a talent, almost, right? Sometimes just being big and being in the way is a talent. Joel Embiid does a lot of that, where now I'm not comparing Myers to Joel Embiid's defensive talents, but Myers has the ability to just be big and just be in the way, and then you play in that 2-3 zone, and you know what? A lot of times they hesitated because Myers is in the paint, because he's just a big body. So the thing is, I'm not writing off Kelly Olynyk, because I love what Kelly Olynyk brings. But I do think that there are some unsung heroes tonight that really showed what they're capable of. Kendrick Nunn, who I've had a lot of problems with. Derrick Jones Jr. really, really made himself known tonight. And Myers Leonard. Those are three guys tonight that, yes, you're playing an eight-man rotation, so sometimes you're forced to play them. But if you're going to be limited, because even when you got Justice and Goron back, when it comes to size, uh, you're talking about DJJ and you're talking about Myers Leonard, they can provide something. And so to me, it's let's not get so stuck in the rotation sometimes. There are matchups where Myers Leonard, Derrick Jones Jr., even when Goron and Justice come back, they can make a difference. And tonight I thought that um, Myers just made a huge difference tonight. He clogged up that paint and he really kind of changed the game, changed the tenor at some points.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to one more thing here after the break. I want to tell you about another sponsor of the Five Reasons Sports Network, Dutch Valley Farms. What's Dutch Valley Farms? For starters, they're not your average cannabis grow farm. They've got deep roots in the 305, and this hometown group of doctors, CPAs, and Silicon Valley professionals have taken their talents from the 305 to the 503 to make the finest flower out there. How does Miami find its way all the way out in Oregon? Simple, a team with a shared belief in cannabis research and erasing the stigma behind the bud. Today, the Dutch Valley Farms crew is bringing together old school growing practices with new school tech to deliver a consistently clean, high quality experience that you can feel good about. The proof is in the plant. You want more information? Visit DutchVF.com or visit Dutch Valley Farms on Instagram at Dutch Valley Farms. All right, we're going to wrap here real quick. They just had a 2-game trip where, well, 3-game trip, actually, if you include Dallas, right? Because that was sort of the beginning of it. I kind of forgot about that one. But let's look at the last two. You know, they have a 2-game trip where they lose to Memphis and they beat Philly. And that runs counter to the narrative about this team, which is that they've beaten up on the bad teams and lost to the good teams. But they now have wins against the Sixers, against the Raptors, against the Rockets, and against the Bucks. Those are 4 of the 7 other best teams in the league, and they could have beaten the Lakers. They had them. I mean, you know, there was a foul that was not called at the end of that game. That thing might have gone to overtime. How far away, and let's do this quickly, how far away are the Heat from elite?
The Heat are one player away from elite. And it's hard to say that when they have like a top 5 record in the entire league. And I'm not talking about conference. I'm talking about the entire league.
Well, there's only 4 teams with 20 wins as we speak. They're one of them.
Yeah, and I also what I will do is I give credit to the Heat for what they've done, but I'm also not going to sit here and lie to myself and lie to the audience and say that Heat are a title contender because they're not. So they are one elite player away from title contention. But what I will say is when this team has been 100% healthy, they are one of the 4 best teams in the league. The problem is I can't count on this team to be 100% healthy.
Right.
So it's either this Heat team brings in a second elite player or they get healthy. So I at this point, there's nothing to say that they'll ever be 100% healthy. So it's either you bring in another elite player or you just ride this thing out this season. And no matter what happens right now, you exceeded expectations. But now the problem is expectations are it's a living thing. Expectations move. So, but you understand what I'm talking about.
I understand it. I mean, obviously, look, nobody was expecting him to have 20 wins at this stage of the season. People would have probably said 15, maybe somewhere in that range, 15, possibly 16.
13, 14, 15, 7th, 8th seed, everyone would have been happy.
Well, not everyone. I mean, I had him as a 3 seed, but I also didn't expect the East to be as good as it's been, okay? So I didn't think Toronto would be as good as it's been. Milwaukee, Philly, I did, but Boston, I wasn't as high on Boston. I didn't think Indiana would hold up as well without Oladipo. The top 6 in the East are very good. I mean, the top 6 in the East are right there with the top 6 in the West, honestly, with the fact that Utah's disappointed a little bit. And obviously, some of the teams we thought might be in the top 6 are not in the top 6 out West. I would say this. I think that what the Heat have proven is that they're not overmatched by anybody because honestly, their effort level is higher than other teams, and so they're able to, if they're moving the ball and they're clicking in that way, they can compete with pretty much anybody on a given night. Do they have matchup issues with the Lakers and Philly? Yes. Well, like I said, they just beat Philly and they almost beat the Lakers. And why? Because their guys don't stop moving. I mean, the effort level is tremendous. Now, with that said, when you have a high effort team and you're only playing 7 or 8,
that's it.
That wears down on you.
That's the problem.
We're gonna feel that soon. Okay, and so, like you said, getting Dragic back would be enormous. Figuring out what the JJ situation is so he can give you a few minutes would actually be helpful right now. Justice, I don't know where that is, okay? But they're acting in the kind of way mysteriously. Typically, when they act like this and they're not giving much information, it's either because it's worse than people are saying and they don't want it out there, or the other thing, and this has happened many times, is that maybe they're not on exactly the same page as the player and they don't want to kind of get it out there. And I've heard it might be a little of the latter. So I think we got to wait to see what happens and whether Justice is going to be able to play through, pain essentially, or a significant amount of pain if that's what he feels it is. But they have to start getting some bodies back. And I know you guys just did a Drew Holiday episode. You're right. I mean, Drew Holiday would change an equation to a certain degree, but just getting Dragic and Winslow back changes the equation for this team because they haven't even had them.
Complete game changer.
Right.
And honestly, if you get Dragic and Winslow back, you could afford another 2 injuries. The thing with Dragic and Winslow is those are your 2 point guards.
Right.
And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. The problem right now is not that Jimmy's playing a lot of minutes. Jimmy's playing a lot of minutes where he has to guard the other team's best player and also run the offense for 35, 40 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Goran alleviates the running the offense part for a lot of the game. So does Justice, and also Justice guards the best player on the other team, the best wing. So it's not just that. I don't care how you feel about Justice Winslow. I don't care what you feel about Goran Dragic. The things that the responsibilities that they take away from Jimmy Butler are so important. Jimmy, it was the first quarter, and Jimmy's bringing the ball up every possession.
Right.
It's a lot. Jimmy shouldn't have to do that till 4 minutes left in the fourth.
Right.
And he wasn't doing that.
It would have been like asking LeBron to do it all the time, and LeBron didn't do it all the time with the Heat.
And people act like it's not a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's taxing. And to bring the ball up every time, to initiate the offense every single time, never be able to take a break on offense, and then have to guard Ben Simmons on the other side of the court. Like, enough is enough. The guys, at some point, you come to a breaking point.
Right. Well, it's a pretty great quote from tonight, and we'll end with this. Where Jimmy Butler was asked, Michael Lee put this on one National Report. I think Michael's with Yahoo now. Michael put this on Twitter today, where Jimmy was asked about how difficult it is to be a 1-star team when you're competing with a 3-star team. And Jimmy said, who are the stars on this team? Bam and who? And we just got through an entire podcast without talking about a guy who had another near triple-double today and was, in a lot of ways, pretty damn dominant defensively in Bam Adebayo. And I think I don't want to talk about him, and here's why. I think that's where he is. Like, I think we're taking him for granted at this stage because he's a star and we're expecting this. Anyway, we'll have more podcasts later this week. We're going to talk to Myers Leonard and Ellie Leonard. We had that set up for this week. Had a little bit of scheduling snafu on both sides, but we're going to be we're definitely going to have that podcast here in the next week, and we'll have a couple of the guys at the Knicks game on Friday as well. So check that out. Thanks for joining us on 5 on the Floor. I think we did pretty good, Alf, all things considered tonight. Come to our next watch party. We'll let you know when it's going to be.
Ethan, I'm drunk.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.